Question. Order. Question number 8, Grant Robertson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My question is to the Minister of Finance. Does he stand by his statement in Budget 2015 that unemployment is expected to fall below 5% in 2016 and that economic growth on average will be 2.8% over the next 4 years?
The Honourable Bill English.
Mr. Speaker, yes, those statements were based on Treasury's independent forecasts at the time and those of the Reserve Bank and a wide range of private sector economists. Of course, being forecast, these are updated over time. As the member will know, since he spent July and August forecasting crisis in the New Zealand economy, and it seems to be bouncing back. I hope he revises his forecasts.
Supplementary question,
Supplementary
Mr. Speaker.
question, Grant Robertson.
Will unemployment drop below 5% in 2016?
The Honourable Bill English.
Well, Mr. Speaker, that's going to be the Treasury's independent view on that will be laid out next week. The Reserve Banks will be laid out tomorrow.
Will the Labor Party drop under 5% in 2016?
Order. Just I'll allow the Minister to finish the question without the interjection.
But, Mr. Speaker, it seems unlikely.
Supplementary question, Grant Robertson.
What kind of Christmas present is it for New Zealanders that we now have 15,000 more people unemployed than at this time last year?
The Honourable Bill English.
Well, Mr. Speaker, for those who don't have a job and who are looking for it, of course it's not that good. But for the record high number of New Zealanders who are working, they're going to have a good Christmas.
Supplementary question, Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Speak to the Minister of Finance. Has the Minister of Finance seen the front page of the Bay of Plenty Times today? 8,100 new jobs created. Latest figures show thousands of jobs have been created in the Bay of Plenty. So does he have any comments he'd like to make about it?
The first part of the question is in order. The Honourable Bill English.
Well, Mr. Speaker, I have seen this and I wasn't surprised, actually, because things have been going so well in that part of the country, despite it historically having a high level of unemployment. However, the Labor Party have been studying the meaning of work while these people have been out creating jobs.
Supplementary question, Jackie Dean.
Thank you to the Minister. Does he stand by his statement made in Budget 2011 that 170,000 extra jobs were expected to be created by 2015?
The Honourable Bill English.
Well, Mr. Speaker, again, that statement was made consistent with the Treasury's forecasts at the time. Sometimes Treasury's forecasts turn out to be inaccurate. That's the nature of economic forecasting. But in fact, that target was exceeded. And over that time, from 2011 to 2015, 176,000 new jobs were created. One of the factors that has led to the highest proportion, or among the highest proportion ever, of New Zealanders available for work and working.
Supplementary question, Grant Robertson.
He claims success for his job creation policies when New Zealand has now slipped from 9th to 15th in the OECD for unemployment since last year.
The Honourable Bill English.
Well, Mr. Speaker, for the reasons that I've just said, and that is not. We do accept that the unemployment rate is higher than we would like it to be, and it's been a bit persistently high. Two reasons for that are that we now have the highest proportion almost ever of New Zealanders available for work. That is a very high participation rate, and record immigration flows. So huge numbers of people are turning up to the labour market. It's been producing new jobs at a rapid rate until the last couple of quarters when it slowed down. There seems to be some evidence it's picking up again.
Supplementary question, Sarah Dowie.
To the Minister, what is the outlook for jobs and wages growth for New Zealand families?
The Honourable Bill English.
Well, Mr. Speaker, it's pretty positive. While unemployment has risen a bit, there has been consistent new job creation, and what's gone with that have been fairly consistent increases in incomes across New Zealand households in the range of 2 to 3% and well ahead of inflation, which is around 0.5%.
Your question, Mr.
Supplementary question, Grant Robertson.
How does he think it has been a successful year for the economy when exports as a percentage of GDP have slipped to their lowest levels since 1997, and he's going in the opposite direction of the target this government has set for itself?
The Honourable Bill English.
Well, Mr. Speaker, I don't necessarily agree with the members' numbers, but as we discussed at Select Committee this morning, there's a number of adjustments have occurred in the economy. One is that the exchange rate has dropped a long way in the last 12 months, which signals a positive outlook for exports over the next few years. Interest rates are at 50-year lows, and a significant portion of resource has been directed where it should be, and that is to increasing the supply of housing and infrastructure. Because when people are showing up, we can't say to them, there's no houses for you, the money's being spent on manufacturing exports. We have to supply the housing.
Supplementary question, Grant Robertson.
Does he really think it's been a successful year for the economy when there are still 305,000 children living in poverty? Because if the economy is meant to do anything at all, isn't it meant to give all New Zealanders a decent shot at life?
The Honourable Bill English.
Well, Mr. Speaker, yes, I do think it's been a successful year for the economy. Secondly, with respect to children, the hundreds of thousands of children in our lowest income households on the 1st of April will get the benefits of a growing economy, and that is a $25 a week increase in their benefit levels. And the government's welfare reforms mean that today there are over 40,000 fewer children living in a benefit household than just 2 or 3 years ago.
Question number 9, Dr.